So I apologize in advance for the loud music in the background and the choppy editing that you're about to hear in this audio clip. The restaurant the doctors were in tried to chase them out by turning up the music, but the good doctors persevered and recorded their thoughts for you. So please take in what they have to say and just ignore all the rest.
This is Elena,
Marlena,
Tiffany,
Mary.
and we've just listened to Anonymous's interview. And so, first question, ladies, what is your overall impression of him and his story?
I think it's a story that represents the truth for a lot of people who are struggling with addiction, and also represents being able to connect with other people and kind of find a way to integrate that in the recovery process.
I think I was most struck by him being the father in the situation and losing two children. I think at times we can forget what the impact is for the dad when you have a stillbirth or a miscarriage. And so his way of trying to cope with that, led down this path of the addiction, but it made him more relatable because I don't think he would be alone in the way that he coped with that loss.
That's a really good point, because I don't think, at least in American society, so I suppose it's like that other places, like I've heard people talk about what it's like for moms, but not necessarily for dads and how they experience it.
Something that really struck me about the story is just the idea of, like, generally with mental health or addiction, there's so much of it that we feel like if you really want this, you'll do it, so to speak. And in his experience, it's like just a really good example of, like, knowing something's bad for you and just not having the wherewithal to be able to make change it.
Yeah, I guess sometimes we can look at addiction like it's a lack of grit and ability to dig deep and just push through. And we're also, I think, limited by, are there resources available to you to help you overcome addiction? Because it's incredibly difficult to do by yourself. And if there's not 12-step meetings or AA or churches or groups or whoever to be a support, especially when people's families have left. And we know social support is the number one thing you have to overcome addiction.
So by being able to connect with other people who have similar experiences and similar losses, to rebuild together and support each other and have constant access to sober environments, that can be the beauty of a peer support model.
Yeah. What is something that jumped or stood out to any of you about his story and how it was interpreted?
I think that when he was talking about the degree of physical impact it had on him in the morning and what it took for him to be able to still go to work and how often those things aren't noticed in society. And so we may be working along with someone and we just don't know what their struggle was in order to get to work in the first place.
Just looking at the sacrifices that he would make, he said, his family would go without coal for fire or, without what they needed, but also knowing that his family and the loss of family was what led him to his behavior at that time. And so just interesting to look at how that factor in love for family can lead to both productive and sort of destructive behaviors.
Yeah, like what a really interesting dichotomy. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think what struck me is that when Tiffany was mentioning how he had to drink in order to go to work, in order for him to be able to maintain even having a home, he had to maintain his addiction because he couldn't do his job without the addiction, like without drinking. I think those are like the main things.